Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of TEDXcellence, the show in which we travel to the future to gain wisdom and knowledge and bring it back. You know, I practiced that before I said it. Didn't help, did it? And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and a totally botched introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday. Wacky Wednesday. Or something. Yes, today, friends, we'll be going into the future, apparently. Or I don't know, clairvoyancing ourselves into possible evils of the future. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, hello to all of you who have joined me on this journey through time and space. Jaeger Pony, hello. Sean Uli, hello. Hello. Black Belt for Christ, hello. Twisted Skipster, hello. John Miller, hello. Aloysius Fudpucker, hello. Crimson Tiger, hello. Mr. E, hello. Tall Person, hello. Advocatus Diaboli, or Avocado Diaboli. Hello. T. Ferrix. Hello. John Smith, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. I said hello to Jaeger Pony. You get two hellos? Oh my God, greedy little horsey. Kiefer Dam, hello. K-Shul, hello. Quinn the Cultist, hello. And then chat jumps because of course it does. That one servant of Satania, hello. Point Curation, thank you so much. I hope one day moon dwellers are called lunatics. They can be right now because I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon. And I'm willfully watching TEDx, so lunatic I may just be. Roger Reynolds, hello. Zalbla, hello. Corey Suzuki, hello. Mike Savage, Blarg. Uziku, hello. Joys of Sorrow, hello. Mr. Joestar, hello. Let's see. Tall Person, thank you so much. Happy Hammock Day, everybody. We used to have a hammock, I think, back at our house way back in the day. Yeah, I remember a hammock. Don't have one now. Oh, well. Pink Hollow Driving Ape Man, hello. Luke Skywalker 2, hello. Asian Hippie, hello. Whiskey Theorizes, hello. Straight Sith Male, hello. Broken Baller, hello. Dina B, or Dinah B. Dina, potato. Hello. Mr. E already said hello. Declan Butler, hello. Jordan 250, hello. Lurking Gopher, hello. Lady Gopher, hello. Check Your Logic, hello. Sar Jim, hello. Sultan Al Fahim, hello. Faithless, hello. Gunfox 61, hello. Samanyo Nation, hello. Thank you, Lady Gopher, so much for the Dogcat Fox, the big smile. Okay. That's a lot of hellos. Hello, everyone. Again, welcome. Byron King, hello. Frosted Glass, hello. All right. So, guys, be sure to have your bingo cards ready. I have no idea what's going to happen today because we're going to be talking about stuff that hasn't actually happened yet. Purportedly. The title of today's presentation is The Future is Biased. I would argue that the present is biased and the past was biased. So it's not really that big of a risk to say the future is biased. But of course, we don't know exactly what she means. We'll find out presently. But yes, get your bingo cards ready. Link is in the description. We'll see if anything pops up in the course of this that causes us to circle. And then at the end of the show, we will go over the bingo card, make any last reviews or arguments, and then we will wrap up for the day, guys, because truth be told, I have to get back to work after I'm done here. Oh, joy of joys. So let's get into this. I will, as usual, start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we will proceed fully. Okay, just tell me that you heard the applause so I don't cut her off in the middle of a sentence, because that would be rude of me. Pepperjack. Asian Hippie says, sounds good. Kiefer Dam says, heard it. Well, I will take that as an affirmative. Mike R sounds good. Sounds good. I'm either a lightweight or my brain is melting. One of the two, because I just stopped working a few minutes ago. But that's not the issue now. The issue is the future. Tell us about the future.
There's some fascinating research that shows from stab vests to the size of our mobile phones to crash test dummies, the world is basically designed for men.
Okay. That profound sentiment out of the way. An admission, something that I'm willing to stipulate to. Okay, and I've said this in a previous, at least one previous TEDx talk. When it comes to crash test dummies in automobiles, now I'm assuming she's speaking from the UK by the accent, but this also applies to America, certainly. Standardized crash test dummies, it is true, were of a male size and frame for the most part, and there were no regulations, at least not in America and or Canada, I don't believe, requiring there to be crash test dummies of various sizes and, let's say, dimorphic biology, for lack of a better phrase, to be used in testing. Some car companies use them of their own accord, but there was no set standard. So for a long time, car safety was designed around a male-framed crash test dummy for the most part. So on that point, and that was up until I think at least at the something like the 1990s, where it started to become standardized, maybe the early 2000s, depending on what we're talking about. So on that point, she has a point. But in every other instance, yeah, I'm going to give a giant grain of salt. Also, just the sentiment that the world is designed for men. Really? Because nobody markets to women, you know, ever, for anything, ever.
Women are the majority of the global population, but by no means the dominant force.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. Why is that? I mean, women outnumber all the men, so why aren't you the dominant force? Women outnumbering men globally has been I think, a relatively common standard for a very long time. So why don't you? And also, what is your definition of dominant? I mean, you think men don't care about women? Men don't market to women? Men don't try to impress women on average? Or something? Okay.
And this rings true in the UK, in my world, the law, where women are more than 50% of practicing lawyers, but only 30% of partners.
Well, golly gee whiz, that must be sexism. It's obviously sexism. God of the gaps theory of statistical analysis, anyone? Now, granted, maybe she'll go into more detail presently, but I have a feeling that that statement alone is meant to imply, if she doesn't say it outright, that obviously the women are being held back by sexist men. And that's it. Okay. But she's a lawyer, all right? She's a UK lawyer. She is one of those, I guess, over 50% practicing attorneys. Is she a partner? I wonder if she's a partner. If she is a partner, how is that possible?
And an even smaller number are business owners.
Okay. And the cause for this is?
Curious.
No. No, it's not curious. Unless you're going to start going into the details and asking more questions about it instead of just looking at raw statistics. But that's beside the point. Thank you. This is Kyle. Hello, chat people and scribbles. Hello, Kyle.
Despite decades of women representing the majority of the new entrants into the law, why weren't we getting to positions of seniority?
Did you pursue them with the same vigor and enthusiasm as the male counterparts in your office? Did you put in the extra hours? Did you seek out those positions? Are these questions you're going to answer for me during the course of this 14-minute presentation? I hope so.
In equal numbers.
How? Yeah. What? Why is that? Tell us your version of reality.
I wanted to get to grips with this when I became president of the Law Society of England and Wales. So,
Whoa, what? You became the president of the Law Society of England and Wales? What are you talking about? You're a woman.
Together with thousands of men and women across the world, we investigated why. We conducted the largest ever global survey.
Oh, okay. You did actual work, and okay. Well, I'm curious to find out why. I mean, okay, maybe I'm being presumptuous. Actually, I know I'm being presumptuous. It's not a question. I'm being presumptuous that it's going to be a very narrow conclusion that defies any other possible explanations or forces of personal choice. But that's where I think it's going. But I'm happy to be surprised elsewise.
And completed 250 round tables in 19 countries to discover why women lawyers weren't getting to positions of seniority that were commensurate with our desires, with our experience, our skills, and our sheer numbers.
Okay, well, first up, your sheer numbers shouldn't amount to anything as far as personal achievement. Mob rule, I would hope, isn't something that you're going for. But yeah, your experience, your merit, your work ethic, and so on and so forth. But that comes down to an individual case-by-case basis, doesn't it? It's not just about because they are women, unless that's how you see it. And I noticed that those roundtable photos you showed us were just of women. You didn't bring in any men to give their perspectives or to compare and contrast their experiences or their sense of hard work versus a woman's sense of hard work, given the people that didn't make it. I mean, what exactly are you aiming for here? How honest were you being in this survey?
And what did we find?
I am on the edge of my seat. And on the edge of my glass. What did you find?
Systemic bias.
Oh, systemic. All right, get to the bingo card. We have free space circled per usual. And then systemic down at the bottom row. And even though we're only a minute 44 seconds into this, let's go over the bingo card real quick. Self-vilification or wretchedness. I have a feeling we're not going to see that here. Takes credit or for something done, experienced by others. Not yet. Equity, the concept is there. She hasn't said it yet. Childhood or family anecdote, no. Microaggression, unconscious bias. She hasn't said unconscious bias yet. I will wait to see if she says unconscious bias. It's still early. Gratuitous pausing for effect, not as of yet. Patriarchy, implied but not stated. We'll see. Leaves out vital context. We'll see. School to prison pipeline, not yet. A list, I'm assuming there will be, but we'll see. Toxic, not yet. Anecdote that probably never happened, not yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, who knows? Feminism, implied but not stated. Marginalization, not yet. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. We'll see. Word salad, we'll see. Wage gap, implied but not stated yet. We'll probably get there. Oh my gosh, this could be a bonanza today, guys. Speaker should not be in current occupation or position. That might be tough depending on whether or not she delves into legal theory or something. So that's probably going to be a rough one. Benevolent condescension. I think we'll get there too. Plays victim. We'll see. Cultural appropriation. Not yet. White supremacy privilege. Not yet, but we'll see. Thank you, John Miller. I think she systemically willed that bias. Well, if she's saying that there is one explanation, a single explanation for that statistical variance or statistical bias or differential or whatever, she's already wrong. It's never one thing. And the word or the phrase systemic bias puts all the onus on the men. The women are left unaccountable for whatever they're doing, whatever decisions they're making. In fact, it takes all agency or considerations of such away from women and say, the men have all the power and control and women are simply subservient. Says the president of the Legal Society of England and Wales, by the way. All right, that's enough of me. Let's continue.
I'd assume that the lives of women lawyers across the world would vary wildly.
Uh-huh.
But our research found that the challenges and the experiences are very similar.
Okay, and what about the individual efforts, merits, experiences, choices, family life, etc.? Because so far, with that one statement, you have said that the women have absolutely no control over their own fortunes. They are perpetually victims of men. So the specifics of their lives don't really matter, do they? They're victims by default, right?
We face social and cultural expectations about how we should behave and what we can and should do because we are female.
And take that same statement and replace the word female with male, and you have an equally valid statement. Like men have no expectations laid upon them or something. There aren't stereotypes about what men should or should not do or how they should or should not behave. Really? There aren't? You think you're special? You're not that special.
In every country, women were prejudiced because they are working by this gender stereotyping, particularly, actually, those who had children. And this prevented capable, excellent, committed women from realizing their ambitions.
So how did you become president of the Legal Society of England and Wales? How'd you become a lawyer in the first place? I don't know if you're a partner at a law firm or have your own law firm or anything else, but I'm assuming you're not standing there because you're an utter failure. And also, if you're talking internationally, yeah, I will confess and stipulate that depending on what country we're talking about, it may be much harder for women to succeed than in other countries if there are laws in said countries or customs in said countries that actively target women for suppression and oppression. So you may have a point depending on what country you're talking about or what set of laws we're dealing with. But to say it applies across the board everywhere? Not buying it.
And how wrong is it that in the year that marks the centenary of women being able to become lawyers...
Wait, women can become lawyers? Why? I mean, all the evidence you're showing us so far say they are really bad at their jobs. They can't succeed. They can't overcome the men despite having larger numbers. They can't be like you, right? But why even bother having them be lawyers? They can be lawyers? Really? Wow, they can? They have that ability, huh? Okay. Guess the men kind of failed on that one, didn't they?
Before that, we weren't even considered to be persons within the relevant law and not allowed to be lawyers and judges, but I digress.
Yes, you do digress. You digress to defunct laws. Like so many speakers I see on TEDx these days, you digress to defunct laws to show how terrible men are today. We really are traveling through time, aren't we? Except you don't acknowledge that the law changed. And why did the law change? Well, because there was a preponderance of people in representation who felt like they were doing the wrong thing. And by changing the law, there was a confession that they had been doing the wrong thing. And the law being changed was a promise and an intention to be better for the future. You don't want to highlight the fact that things changed. You want to highlight how they used to be, as though that is an artifact of how people behave today. I see this so very often. You might be able to tell in the tenor of my voice.
How wrong is it that today anyone cannot progress due to their gender, their race, or any other protected characteristic.
If you know of a law firm or a business, and I'm talking specifically to at least the US, Canada, and the UK here, because I don't know, generally speaking, the laws in other countries. If you know of a law firm or an employer who is discriminating hiring or promotion practices on the basis of race or gender or sexual orientation or religion, notify the authorities because they are breaking the law. And if our speaker knows of such instances of this taking place, well, she's a lawyer, so she must have just gadzooks amounts of work to do and billable hours to make. Thank you, Midnight Exile. Ever notice that nobody ever asks why women weren't allowed certain things, as if it were just made up because oppression is fun? Because patriarchy. You know, and I'm not necessarily being facetious there. Depending on the time period we're talking about, it was basically a patriarchy. Thank you. This is Kyle. Just remember, since things are terrible for women in other places and in the past, then it's just like that in Western society or the present. Yes, that is what we are meant to assume here, I guess. But okay, so she's telling us that women who make up more than men, statistically, in the legal profession, since we're being very specific about that, can't get ahead, can't succeed, can't advance because men won't let them. All right, continue.
Surely, we must all agree that talent is equally spread and that
No, it is not. No, it is not. Talent goes to those who are talented, depending on what you're talking about. Talent is not equally spread. What are you talking about? Okay, I'm going to back up a couple seconds because that just kind of, that threw a fishhook straight into my brain and tugged on it.
all agree that talent is equally spread.
No, we don't.
And that everyone should have the same opportunities and chances as everyone else.
Yes, equal opportunity, yes. That does not guarantee equality of outcome, however. Equal opportunity, yes. That doesn't mean that talent is spread evenly. That means everybody gets a chance, if they so choose, to take a bite at the apple. And either they're tall enough or they're not. And if they're not, well, they might be tall enough for something else. Hey, what are you talking about? Talent is spread equally, but I'm arguing for equality of opportunity. What? Okay.
Yet, in an esteemed profession like the law, we found that not to be the case for women.
Women are not given equal opportunity in the law. Okay. I don't know how it is in the UK. Do tell. Maybe there's something there.
And I'm sure the law isn't alone in.
You're sure the law isn't alone. So you're going to be making assumptions about the rest of reality. Okay, just making sure I understand where we're going here.
This.
Yeah.
Let's remember that the equal pay gap in the UK stands at 17.3%.
Okay, wage gap, pay gap, wage gap, same difference. Wage gap, circled on the board.
And that's in spite of the fact that we have had a law in place for 50 years, making it illegal to pay men and women differently for the same work.
Okay, so you're blaming the pay gap, the wage gap, actually it should be earnings gap on illegal practices. It's not that people make different choices about careers or how many hours they work a week or whether or not to dedicate more of their time to raising a family versus then working full time. No. That 17.3% is totally based on illegal practices by businesses. There's only one singular explanation for that statistical difference. Is that what you're telling me? Because that's what you're telling me. Okay, leaves out vital context, circling that one right now. Because whether right in this moment, before, or certainly as we proceed, I have a feeling that's going to be the case.
Nonetheless, today, our male colleagues can stop work on the 14th of November, and we have to go all the way through to the 31st of December to earn the same.
Well, maybe you should be putting in more hours at the office then. Maybe you should be getting degrees in college that commend you to higher paying jobs. I don't know. How did you succeed, oh speaker? Tell us about, I mean, I'm not being facetious here. Tell us about your curriculum vitae. Tell us about your work experience. Tell us about your work ethic, how many hours you work, how many opportunities you took, how aggressive or assertive you were in pursuing higher paying positions. Tell us about your experience. How did you make it, even though you're a woman? And then tell us again how it's impossible for a woman to succeed.
Now, this is all really concerning.
Yeah, it is really concerning if you believe it to be true and that there is a singular answer to that statistic, that being that men are evil. Sure, that's very concerning if you live in that reality.
But what I want to focus on is how it could get an awful lot worse.
Oh boy! Oh wait, no, awful lot worse. You want to focus on how it can get worse? Oh man, you are a Debbie Downer, you know that?
Now, most of us live with the hope and expectation.
Why are you hovering on this guy in the audience? Why? This poor guy. Why? What's wrong with him? Was he the balding white guy you could find to, I don't know, symbolize the patriarchy? I know. I'm doing my own little fan fiction right now, but all the same.
That our lives will improve with a greater use.
Why are you focused on this guy? What, of all the people in the audience, and also why is there a camera like angled up? That is so bizarre.
Of technology, that computers are fair, non-biased, and that their decisions can be relied on.
Wait, I missed something. Sorry, I was focusing on the bald guy. I'm backing up slightly. I apologize. I gotta. Computers what now?
Now, most of us live with the hope and expectation.
Yes.
That our lives will improve with a greater use of technology.
Okay. That our lives would improve with the use of technology. Okay. All right.
That computers are fair, non-biased.
Computers are fair, non-biased. Computers are things. They are inanimate objects. Their software is as fair or unbiased as the person programming it. What are you talking about?
And that their decisions can be relied on.
Computers don't make decisions. They arrive at, I don't know, conclusions depending on what you're inputting and what the software running says. What? What?
However, I'm worried that as we moved into an increasingly automated and data-driven world where the computer decides almost everything.
What?
All that bias that we know exists could be hardwired into future decision making.
She's talking about artificial intelligence. I'll be honest, I didn't see that one coming. Okay, so you're talking about we're all giving over all of our critical thinking and decision making to computers, which are run by artificial intelligences, which are obviously designed by and programmed by men, and men are obviously going to be biased against women. So who a law firm hires or promotes is going to be left up to a computer. Is that what I am to understand? Because that's the only conclusion I can come to, given how you opened up this presentation.
Bias frankly blights our world, makes it an unfair and an unkind place for people who don't come from that dominant culture.
That dominant culture, biased and unfair. Yeah, sort of like you're saying that all men are inherently conspiring against the fortunes of women. You know, all women are completely incapable and helpless before the power of the overall systemic bias of men who are obviously being systemically biased. You know, that kind of bias, sort of. Okay.
And this includes women, people of color, and the disabled, to name but a few.
To name but a few. Okay. Now, thank you, John Miller. Wait, the world is unfair? Gasp. Well, there's that too. There's that too. Like you're expecting that everything should be equal, all outcomes should be equal, and so on and so forth. Now, I agree with her earlier statement of equal opportunity. Yes. Equal opportunity does not mean equality of outcome. And once more, I would really like to know from our speaker how she became so successful. How was that possible, given the statistics rallied against her?
So the stakes are high, and the not too distant future could be really scary.
Could be. I think you've just about told us that it will be. And in fact, I think you need it to be, or else you probably wouldn't have anything to advocate for, would you?
I'll explain why I think this.
I wish you would, because really it's the explanations which makes this all worthwhile.
First of all, let's understand how a computer makes a decision.
Okay. And I'm about to ready to circle word salad. Is she saying that a computer decides who is hired into partnership at a law firm? Because if I'm going to take her primary example of the disparity between the genders, then I have to look at the legal profession. Because what she's talking about purportedly applies to all things dealing with men or women in employment. So, okay, a computer either is or is going to decide who to hire into a law firm and then who to hire into partnership. Is that what I am to understand?
It's programmed within a set of instructions called algorithms.
And those algorithms are created primarily by men. I'm just guessing. Thank you, Pakal, the Driving Ape Man. Computers use binary. She's not that bright. Well, I mean, algorithms. Okay, algorithms.
And these algorithms are fed information and data.
Yes.
So that they can learn.
Yes.
And make decisions.
Sure, usually for the placement or display of advertisements. But depending on what you're talking about, what platform, YouTube, Twitter, or otherwise, sure, it makes decisions. And like Pincalo said, it's all very binary. Is something X or is it Y? If it's X, go to, step 2, so on and so forth. They're checking one and the other. Okay. Computers, algorithms, information. And law firms are going to be run by computerized human resources departments now? Is that it?
The algorithms,
yes,
once they're trained,
yes, can
then apply themselves to all sorts of other information and come up with answers.
They can really only apply themselves to that information they are applied to and that information which they are programmed to process. Algorithms are not sentient beings. Now, full confession here, I am not a computer programmer. Despite being a nerd, I probably couldn't code my way out of a paper bag if my life depended on it. So if I am overly simplifying something, or if I'm being completely inaccurate here, and there's somebody in chat who knows better, and I imagine there is, by all means correct me at the end of the presentation, because I got to pay attention to this. But okay.
Well, what's wrong with that, you may ask? Also,
yeah, what is wrong with that inherently?
seems perfectly fair, reasonable, objective, etc.
It's only as objective as the person making the algorithm. As we have seen time and again by YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and on and on and on. If she's going to try to pitch me on the idea that a certain, I don't know, bias can be programmed into an algorithm, she is pushing at an open door. But again, is an algorithm going to be doing the hiring at law firms now?
But there are two big problems here.
Up two, that's a list. A list. Okay, circling a list on the bingo card.
Firstly, with the way the algorithms are programmed and by whom. And secondly, with the information, the data that they are trained on. Picture a computer programmer.
Picture a computer programmer. Do you imagine a slightly pudgy, balding white man with glasses? You know, the male part being the most significant.
Bet you're not thinking of someone who looks like me. And you'd be right.
Okay, way to disparage all the female programmers out there. Both that I know personally and that I know exist, but okay, sure. All right, so our assumptions, our stereotypical thought processes are correct, you say. Interesting admission.
According to the latest Office of National Statistics data, of the nearly 1 million people working in IT in the UK,
70, I'll say 70 some odd % are men. Okay, I'm going to make a guess. Like I said, I haven't watched this, so I'm just guessing. I'm going to say somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% are men and 30% are women. You know, plus or minus 5%, let's say. A margin of error. Just for the hell of it.
Only 18% are female.
18%? Oh, I was way off. Wow, I was far more generous. Okay. So then, yeah. Okay, so 82% are men. All right. So someone saying, picture a computer programmer, and if they think of a man for whatever reason, they're not wrong, statistically speaking. Okay. All right. Well, sounds fine to me.
In the US, in Silicon Valley, white men represent over 80% of executives.
Oh my God. Oh my God. What is the national population again, demographically speaking? Oh my God. White men. So in the UK, you're showing a statistic dealing with just men versus women. In the US, you're just statistically showing white men versus women of what? White women or all women? Or I'm curious to know, because that's two completely different kind of statistics based on either defining a demographic or not defining a demographic. And are those two circles all that much different, even though the percentages are different? I don't know. Thank you, John Miller. Getting real tired of her statistical vomit. So what that X% is X. Yeah. I mean, if I could circle more than one square that says leaves out vital context, I would be by now, but it is what it is. Okay. Tell us more, I guess.
So the majority of the people writing the programs and their bosses all come from one particular group.
No. No, they do not. Men are not a group. They are a demographic. Men do not all think alike. Otherwise, please do tell me why Joe Biden is running against Donald Trump. Sorry, I just get a little irritated when people insult my intelligence or simplify far more complex issues than they're saying. So she's currently being a sexist. So I'm going to say make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Saying that all men think alike, that all men operate the same, and so on. I understand that square is not sexism or like they're a sexist or something, but I'm going to put it there. And also I'm going to circle plays victim because she is including herself amongst the oppressed demographic, despite the fact that she is the president of the Law Society of England and Wales, is, I presume, a practicing lawyer who's not pulling in a paycheck. So there you go. Plays victim, circle in that one. And you know what? I'm also going to do benevolent condescension. Women are just unable to stand up against the overwhelming power of the male conspiracy. So circle in that one as well. All right, moving on.
And this can lead to serious blind spots and potential bias.
Potential bias can lead. Potential. Got it.
And just like stab vests and cars designed for men's bodies, if you're not in the dominant group, this can be really dangerous.
There are no stab vests, and I understand that that is a thing that's apparently very necessary in the UK. There are no stab vests made for women. There are no stab vests sized for women. There was never a notion that a woman's body is different than a man's body, and so a vest that is meant to protect said body must be shaped differently. You know, unlike every other fashion item on the planet, there's not a women's size or women's version of knife stab vests. And also, again, I have stipulated, and I will continue to stipulate, that there was no industry standard of using differently sized crash test dummies in cars for a very long time. But now there are. So again, leaning onto the mistakes of the past as a commentary on behavior today is a pretty weak argument. Just saying.
For you. The second issue, the second problem relates to how the algorithms are trained, the information, the data they are trained on.
Just tell me again, affirm to me that there is a law firm using a computer and an algorithm to select its employment decisions. Just tell me that that is the case, that they have taken the human component completely out of the process, and that lawyers or potential lawyers or advancement in law firms is being left up to a computer. Tell me that that is so, or show me a law firm where that is the case. Otherwise, your premier example, your own personal industry, and this argument put together makes no sense.
And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. The first is now really quite famous. Amazon, as a tech company, quite understandably wanted to use technology to ensure that they got the very best candidates for the top jobs. So they started to use an algorithm to sort through CVs.
Okay, Amazon, not a law firm. All right, Amazon, a gigantic company with thousands and thousands and thousands of employees and job openings and so on and so forth. They employed an algorithm. Okay, I am not surprised. Do tell.
This algorithm was trained on information from the successful candidates' CVs over the last 10 years.
Okay. I mean, if I was Amazon, that would seem reasonable. What kind of decisions had been made in the past that clued into successful employee hires? All right. Do tell.
But
the
tech industry is dominated by men.
Uh-huh.
Most of those CVs came from men.
Did Amazon use gender as a deciding data point in the algorithm? Now, I have no idea. I'm not saying that like I'm being like judgmental or something. I have no idea. But if Amazon used gender as a decision point in their algorithm, if they have not already, I would be chomping at the bit as a lawyer to file a class action civil rights violation suit against Amazon for thousands and thousands of potential hires that were set aside on the basis of their gender. Okay? If there is evidence that Amazon was systematically excluding women from career opportunities or employment opportunities, hey, I'm on board. Sue the hell out of them. Is that what you're going to tell me? Because if that is not what you're going to tell me, then I have no idea what you're talking about.
And the algorithm quickly learned to equate being male with success and started to downgrade women.
I'm gonna take a wild guess here. And again, I couldn't use BASIC to code my way through tissue paper, but I'm going to take a guess here. I'm going to take a guess that if you took all of the CVs of the successfully hired and long-term employees of Amazon and you removed all of the notifications of gender and you just stacked them up by type of degree, type of work experience, whole bunch of other factors. If we're talking promotions, maybe hours worked or awards, something like that. And you just took gender out of it completely and you stacked those up and said, here are the premier CVs. Here are the premier, work applications. And then you took all the genders and added them back in. I bet you, the majority would still be men. Because it all depends on the personal choices you make. And on average, men go for degrees in college that are far more technically based, science-based than women do. And then when it comes to working hours and dedication to working versus raising a family, more often than not, men have the advantage because women make decisions different than men. They choose to focus on raising a family or not working full-time or not working as many hours to focus on their family. Not all women, but on average. So, tell me, oh speaker, was the algorithm programmed to filter by gender? If it was not, you have no argument because it is a very binary consideration, is it not? So if you have evidence that Amazon programmed its algorithm to exclude women from consideration, I am all for you suing Amazon into the dirt for violating thousands and thousands of people's civil rights. I'm not being facetious. But if you're not currently filing a lawsuit against Amazon on the basis of what their algorithm obviously did by your accusation here, I really have to wonder, why not?
So if you had captain of the hockey team on your CV.
And does captain of the hockey team apply to the male or female variety?
Then that might be looked on favorably.
Male or female team. Is the algorithm distinguishing between male and female? Say that it is. If you don't, then it isn't. Is it?
But if it said captain of the women's hockey team, then it was probably destined for the bin.
Probably, or was it? Was the algorithm trained to discard references to gender, one or the other? Was it, or wasn't it? I mean, again, if this is the case, if this is some lawsuit that occurred and there was evidence of this happening, I'm not going to argue with it. I'll be totally on her side here. And I'm not being facetious about that. I don't know all of the legalese and perils of legaldom that Amazon has gone through. I do not know. So if she has a story, if she has an example, if she has an actual court case, legal precedent and evidence to show such a thing, I would appreciate it if she would provide it here. But so far, all she is providing, and I am going to armchair lawyer here for a second, is hearsay.
Women didn't represent successful candidates.
Was it that women did not represent successful candidates, or the average level of experience between men and women favored men more just on the basis of the hard data, excluding gender? Was it sexism, or was it personal merit, absent a gender consideration? Why are you not allowing for that possibility? Or why are you not telling us definitively that they discriminated on the basis of gender?
And the system started to reinforce this. It's known as algorithmic bias.
Algorithmic bias. Was gender a filtering data point in the algorithm? Yes or no? It is also a very binary question because there can only be a binary answer. Yes or no?
Thankfully, when Amazon understood the consequences of using the system, they stopped. But damage must have been done.
Must have been done? You don't know that it was done? So what did Amazon admit to? Again, I don't know. What did they admit to? What fault or flaw in their algorithm was illegally discriminating against people on the basis of gender? And again, I just want to verify, despite all my sarcasm and sardonic attitude, if there is a case here that I'm just not aware of, lay it before me, and I'll be totally on your side. Why aren't you laying it before me?
My second example comes from...
No. There was no example there. There was an accusation. There was a abstract notion. There was no example. You didn't give us case law. You didn't give us the admission or a press release from Amazon or anything like that. You didn't give us any example. You're a lawyer? Do you know how to make a convincing case based on evidence? Because that wasn't it. If I was in the jury box, I would not be on your side right now.
My own experience.
Oh, okay. Your own anecdotal experience. Okay. What was this from your youth or your family? Because then I can circle another square. Or is it an anecdote that ends up sounding completely ridiculous, which I can circle another square? Or is it both? I'll take both.
I chaired a commission which looked into the use of algorithms in the criminal justice system.
You chaired a commission? How? You're a woman.
And we found that they were being used widely by police forces all over the country for things like facial recognition.
Uh-huh. Were they employed at all in Rotherham by any chance? I don't know why I bring up that city so often when it comes to UK law enforcement. Just one of those things.
So this is when faces in a crowd, and this could be your face without so much as a by your leave, are cross-referenced against faces on watch lists.
Okay, if she's arguing against facial recognition and a camera state with a surveillance state with cameras all over the place, I'm not necessarily going to push back on that one. The amount of CCTV coverage that it takes place in the UK by law and everything else is a little bit disturbing from time to time. I'm not sure how much more good it does versus bad in the long run, or how much of your own personal privacy rights you're giving up to that kind of thing. So if she's going to argue against facial recognition and too much invasiveness by the government and observing you and violating your privacy, I'm not necessarily against her on that one. But I have a feeling that that's not all she's going to be arguing against. So we'll see.
And predictive crime mapping. Remember that Tom Cruise film, Minority Report?
Yeah, that's a very, very scary notion, isn't it? Assuming to know the heart and the morality of someone before they've done anything wrong. Kind of like saying all men are oppressing women just by nature of what they are, or something. Sorry, I digress.
Where the role of the police was to prevent crimes from happening.
Yes.
Well, this is very similar. An algorithm works out where police officers should be deployed so that they can detect more crimes.
Okay, there was before there were algorithms doing that kind of work, who did that kind of work? Police officers, police departments. What parts of town are experiencing more crime than others? Those parts of town require more attention. I mean, an algorithm might be able to do it more efficiently and quickly and statistically and so on, but everything an algorithm does now, at some point, was done by a human. So, yeah.
The problem is that this can lead to discrimination and potential bias.
Can lead potential. Can potential. These are her two favorite words so far in hedging, giving us a definitive. Are the algorithms incorrect? I mean, if you're not going to say that they are incorrect, then giving us hypotheticals doesn't really do anything to counter whatever it is you're trying to counter, does it? If you took away the algorithms and you just looked at the crime statistics per area or neighborhood or whatever else, would the recommendations for where to send more police be all that much different? Is it based wholly on crime statistics, or are you saying that there is a racial component, a gender component, an ethnic component plugged into the algorithms? And if there is, why aren't you telling us that there is?
It doesn't take a genius to work out that the more police officers you put in one place, the more crimes they are likely to detect there.
Chicken and egg, you say. All right, so what we need to do then is those areas of the city where we have more crime occurring, more reports of crime, more calls of crime that bring police to the area, we need to remove the police and crime will go down. I mean, that is at least tangentially kind of an argument that's being made right now with the whole defund or abolish the police process in America and elsewise. So is our speaker advocating for the removal of police because police cause crime simply by detecting it? What? Okay, word salad. I'm circling word salad. It just boggles the mind how we're even at this point. Weren't we talking about hiring practices in law firms earlier?
The use of the algorithm becomes self-reinforcing.
So those crimes are not detected by the cops? Those crimes would not exist if it were not? Well, I mean, I guess in some sort of very philosophical way, you could say, sure, if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one around to hear it, did it make a sound? If someone commits a crime and there's no cops around to catch them, did they actually commit a crime? Oh, I don't know. Well, golly, what an interesting way of looking at the world in reality.
Also, it's almost impossible to truly measure crime in our society. Only proxies like convictions, or more problematically, individuals arrested.
What are you advocating for now? So, calls to the police, the frequency of calls to the police cannot be measured. The location of these calls cannot be grouped. You can't put a map up on the wall and put a pin for every call that comes into the police within a given time frame and try to sort of piece out what parts of the city are having more calls come in about crimes being committed than others. You can't measure that. You can't measure arrests. You can't measure convictions. You can't measure any of that. What are you talking about?
So, as it's commonly accepted that some populations are underserved by the criminal justice system and others are over-policed, then the information that the algorithm uses is biased.
Pinkal, the driving ape man, thank you so much. Delusional and has never experienced victim trauma. She's just not making any sense at this point. She's just not making any sense. Like I say, remove the algorithms. Okay, let's go back to a time before the algorithms. And you've got police departments that have a map up on the wall. And they take little stick pins and they put pins into every location from which they received a call of a report of a crime over the course of a 6-month period or a 1-year period, whatever. And they say, golly gee whiz, we have a lot of pins in this 10-block radius more than any other place in the city. You know, and how many of those crimes end up getting solved? Let's go through that. Let's take all those pins that represent all these individual crimes. How many of those crimes end up being solved? Oh, the number is awfully low. So the report of the crime versus a resolution of that crime that leads to an arrest and a conviction don't match up. Well, maybe we should put more police into that area because more crime is occurring and fewer people are getting arrested and those crimes aren't being resolved. You know what just happened there, oh speaker? An algorithm. A human-fueled algorithm, yes, but an algorithm all the same. And if a computer came to that same conclusion based on the information available, that's wrong? That is a moral evil? It's biased and prejudiced because you say so? And you can't measure crime, obviously. So if you can't measure crime, tell me what information is the algorithm processing? Just curious. Thank you, John Miller. She's the perfect crappy lawyer. Has no idea what she talks about, but knows that she is right. I'll tell you what. I can't necessarily say, not knowing what kind of law she practices, whether or not she should or should not be in her current occupation. But I'll tell you what, if I had to select between her and anybody else to represent me in a court of law for some reason, based on this TEDx talk, I wouldn't go anywhere near her.
And this threatens our basic human rights.
How? How?
So.
No, not so. How? How does it threaten our basic human rights? I mean, in America, if you want to get really sort of flowery about it, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? You want to get down to sort of the rhetorical core of our basic human rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How does an algorithm that helps to determine where to send police to try to decrease or address crime, how does that violate our basic human rights? How? You don't just go so and reach your conclusion without giving us the explanation. What?
If we add the possible bias.
Possible. Can, potential, possible. Okay?
In the programmers.
The possible bias in the programmers. Weasel words. Weasel words.
And every single one of us has our own set of biases.
No. You have just spent the last, 13 minutes. Sorry, 11 minutes, 13 minutes, 11 minutes, 39 seconds. Somehow my brain transcribed those two digits. You spent the last 11 minutes, 39 seconds telling us that the biggest problem in the world is male bias. Women are pure and virtuous. They have no biases that inherently or detrimentally affect anybody. It's all men. It can't be everybody. It's just the men. You just told us it's a grand conspiracy of a group, i.e. men, aligned against women. So everyone has biases now? Okay, so are there any women programmers who contributed to an algorithm that still led to the outcomes you don't like at all? At Amazon?
But that's another talk.
No, it's not another. Jesus. That's another talk. No, you don't get to say one talk is about how men and their biases infect algorithms, programming, businesses, life in general, and then say everybody has biases, but that's another talk. No, you just...
Together with the bias and the information that the algorithm is fed on, which reflects the past and the current bias of society.
Of society? You mean the society that is majority female? Okay.
And finally, the growing body of research which confirms that human beings may lack the confidence and the knowledge to question or override algorithmic recommendations.
Human beings. So men are also victims of the algorithm as well, then? Or are men less than human? I don't know.
And we could end up with a perfect storm.
Could. Can. Potential. Possible. Could. Got it.
A world where increasingly numbers of decisions are being made by unchecked computers based on information which discriminates against sections of our society in a way which none of us would want.
Okay. Fundamentally, I am not going to argue against the over-digitization of our world, even though I think at this point it is effectively unavoidable, unless you're choosing, and I don't necessarily recommend against it, not signing up for every social media platform or paying only attention to things that are fed you from other sources without going out and finding your own answers or checking more than one source. I am not going to argue against the dangers of relying too heavily on computers and apps and other social media sites, which are fueled by bias because they are fueled by people. There are very few benevolent businesses out there because the bottom line is still the bottom line. But that Brave New World THX1138 sentiment and danger aside, this lady has been talking nonsense for 12 minutes and 28 seconds. I don't know what else to tell you.
But where no one is willing or able to say the computer's wrong.
Really? I mean, I fear the future where we lose all critical thinking and just believe the computer. If there is a future like that, I completely abhor it. I hope we avoid it. I mean, part of the reason why I do things like this is to practice my critical thinking skills and encourage them in others. Because it is very easy to become complacent and just take what you're given rather than seeking out your own information. So I hope we do not reach that point where we as a society abandon and abdicate our critical thinking skills to a computer or a social media site or a news organization or anything else run by a computer or run by a corporation. I hope we don't. In a lot of cases these days we do. And maybe it's unavoidable at this point, but I'm going to try to fight against it in whatever small way I can.
My call to action is to make sure we do not sleepwalk into this dystopian nightmare.
And in spirit, I am on the same page with her. In spirit. In fact, she hasn't made any sense during this entire talk.
There's another future we could have, one where if we get it right, we could reduce or even remove all the bias that currently blights our decision-making.
Bullshit. Pardon my French, but bullshit. There has always been, there is now, and there will always be bias. Political parties, sports teams, comic books, video games, stamp collecting, and on and on and on. And one way, shape, or form, these biases, both benign and otherwise, will feed into people's decision makings, one to another, now and forever. There is no utopia of a non-biased populace. You're not going to find it. Because without bias, why do we have different countries? Without bias, how would you have a career as a lawyer? Thank you, John Miller. So the data is wrong, then prove it. Don't just spout nonsense that sounds good. Her current arguments prove that data is more accurate than her. Now, maybe there is information that could back up her arguments, but everything she's given us so far is just sophistry. It sounds kind of convincing, sort of, if you don't look too hard, and if you squint, kind of maybe. But no, she's not given us any examples. She's not given us any actionable information. It's just possible, can, potential, could. That's all it is. I mean, it's right up there with Peggy McIntosh's invisible knapsack. You know, can be pretty well assured. You know, or can be fairly certain, or something like that. That kind of language. Ugh.
Where computers can do the heavy lifting for us, but in a way that is right and fair and good.
I feel like I'm just going to be broken recording myself at this point.
As concerned citizens, we need to be on this. We need to raise ours and others' awareness of this issue.
What issue? You have not specified an issue. You have laid out accusations and hypotheticals. Again, if you have evidence, just as the primary example you gave, if you have evidence that the Amazon algorithm used gender as a deciding point, then you have a massive class action lawsuit just sitting in front of you to take against Amazon for violation of civil rights in America and whatever the equivalent is in the UK and everywhere else in the world. By all means, tell me that that is the case. Tell me you have evidence that that took place, and I'll be totally on your side in suing Amazon into the dirt. Because equal opportunity and the absence of discriminatory practices in hiring and promotion in business is something that I am very passionate about. If nothing else from my channel or the videos I've done or anything else has proven anything else about what I believe, it's that. A belief in equal opportunity and an absence of discrimination on non-determinative factors of merit in hiring, firing, promotion, and so on. If not life in general, then at least the mechanics of the law and business. If you have that evidence, put it in front of me. I'll be on your side in a flash. But you haven't done that. And you're a lawyer. And you're purportedly trying to make a case to me to believe your side of the argument. And you are failing miserably.
We need to tell our decision makers, politicians, and tech companies, this is not okay.
What is not okay? You haven't given us a what. You've given us accusations and hearsay. Or I should say allegations. That seems a bit more legal, doesn't it? What is not okay? Your paranoia? Your assumptions? Your accusations without offered evidence? That's not okay? Well, I'll tell you what. In this instance, you're right.
They need to find solutions. And they need to involve us, civil society, in that process.
If they are elected politicians, then sure, they technically are beholden to civil society. If they're private businesses, not so much. At least up until they start violating federal laws or something. So we're not going to get any actionable examples here, are we? It's just going to be a bunch of hearsay. All right.
And we all need to play our part to make sure that our increasingly automated and computerized world can eradicate systemic bias.
No, you haven't proven systemic bias, but you want to rely on computers which are programmed by men who facilitate systemic bias to be the ones to eradicate systemic bias, even though women are the majority population on the planet and they can become lawyers. The computers need to decide
and not hardwire it into our future. I'm up for this, and I hope you are too. Thank you.
Ideas. Well, if that isn't a depressingly ironic word to end this presentation on. Ideas, of which none were offered in this presentation. Allegations without evidence, accusations without supporting data, and no solutions presented to the problems even conjured up in the course of this nonsense. But ideas are the watchword of the conclusion. Okay, going back to the bingo card, I'll do one more review, and then we will, and then suddenly I got a system notification. How likely are you to recommend the Google Chrome web browser to a friend or colleague? Hey, chat. Chrome, as far as I know, is the only browser that StreamYards uses to display video. So if you're doing a StreamYard live stream and you want to do kind of like what I do, so far as I know right now, the only browser that allows that to happen is a Chrome tab. So I would recommend to you Chrome if you're going to be attempting to do something similar to what I do. There you go. Okay, self-vilification or wretchedness. No, none of that was there. She wasn't vilifying herself. Takes credit for something done, experienced by others. I can't say that she ever did that. I don't remember her saying that. Equity. Okay, the concept was out there quite a bit. I don't think she ever stated the word. I'm willing to take arguments that the preponderance and aggregate point of the talk dealt with equity, or she asked for equity. No, you know what? She did say, why didn't we have an equal outcome? And you know what? Hell with it. I'm circling equity. The overall thrust of her argument or complaint there was about women not being exactly equal to men, even though women outnumber men and so on and so forth. We have a bingo. We have a bingo going straight down from the N column. But moving on, childhood family anecdote, never brought it up. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. I'm going to put unconscious bias because I'm going to circle that one because effectively she was saying that the algorithms are being programmed by men who are inserting their bias into it without intending to and so on. So unconscious bias. Gratuitous pausing for effect. Not that I noticed. Patriarchy. Never said, but implied. I mean, if I'm willing to circle equity, I guess for this instance, I'll circle patriarchy too. I mean, it was effectively what she was saying, especially when she started out saying the world was built for men. So, all right. School to prison pipeline. No, never came up. Toxic. No, that one I need at least a little bit of an actual example of her saying the word. Anecdote that probably never happened. I don't know that she ever gave us anything that sounded out of the ordinary or that was at least detailed enough for me to say that doesn't sound like reality. So I can't circle that one. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. As compared to things that I've looked at in the past, I didn't see anything new there. I mean, and just adding the word systemic to something doesn't make it a new buzzword, buzz phrase inherently. And she didn't focus on any one thing. So I'll take arguments, but I'm not really sure on that one. Feminism, never brought it up. Again, you could make the argument, but marginalization. I don't think she ever used the words. Did she? Oh, man. She brought up... She brought up protected characteristics at one point. I don't know. Chat, you tell me. Speaker should not be in current occupation or position. I sure as heck wouldn't hire her. I don't care what kind of lawyer she is. I wouldn't hire her. If that's her notion of what an argument is, to make a case before an audience, a jury, so to speak. No, I'm circling that one. No. Cultural appropriation. No. White supremacy privilege. No. She did bring up white men. Is that supremacy? Okay, again, I'll sit on the fence on that one, so to speak. Regardless, we have a bingo. So we've already hit bingo. We could hit a double bingo if you guys can convince me that marginalized or marginalization was either used or strongly enough implied, I might be easy to convince on that one. So let me go to the chat here in a second. Let me bring up the bingo card so that everybody can see it as it currently stands. And I just have to hit that and then do this. And there we go. Okay, so that's the bingo card as it currently stands, guys. And it's not showing up. Why not? Let's try that again. Oh, that's the one I had to, okay, there we go. I refreshed the wrong tab. All right, guys. So back to the chat, looking at you guys now, scrolling up a little bit. Assassin the Gray, Scribe Light, is there a bingo box for absolute bold-faced lie? I mean, anecdote that probably never happened and sort of tangentially leaves out vital context, sort of. But no, there's no square for that. Let's see. Faithless says valid research was an anecdote that never happened. Huh. Now that is an interesting argument. She cites research, but then never actually cites research. She says there were studies, but never gives any sources. I think that leaves out vital context. I don't know that's not an anecdote. I'm not going to, the sanctity of the bingo card must be respected. Some emulation, Scribe Light, didn't she imply that women were marginalized through the whole first half of the talk? You know what? You're not wrong. I'm willing to circle that one. All right. We have a double bingo. I mean, the aggregate sentiment throughout the course of the talk, you're right. Won't argue with that one. We have I believe this might be our first double bingo. Wow, that lady just covered a lot of territory. Okay, any more arguments for circles, for squares to be circled, guys? Because I need to wrap this up and get back to work here in a couple minutes. John Miller, of course she won't use sources. They would hurt her argument, and as a lawyer, she has to cheat to win. Well, the fact that she kept using words like potential, possible, can, could, and so on really says that she had no definitive information to give us. Nothing that she could say is an actual truth, an unavoidable fact. Let's see. Noah Knower says, St. Peter's Cross bingo. Doesn't it need to be one line up more? Well, no, I guess that'd be just a cross. Okay. Yeah. All right. Kind of an upside down, maybe non-holy cross, but all the same. ERA us now. Scribe Light, she skirted around overtly saying white supremacy with her crime algorithm, but the meaning was there. No, I'm not going to say that. I know. I mean, it's trying to stretch some of these squares out into covering a larger umbrella space than they actually do. In some circumstances, I'm willing to do it. That one, no. And even then, we'd still just be at a double bingo. Let's see. Brad Young says St. Peter's Cross is upside down, isn't it? Yep. And that, I mean, if you exclude all the other circles that don't make up the cross, then yeah, you got an upside down cross. Let's see. Tall person, Scribe Light, would you consider making God of the Gaps as a potential square? I mean, I've kind of made that the leaves out vital context part as sort of a all-encompassing kind of deal, because, I mean, if I just put in God of the Gaps, I'd be circling both that and leaves out vital context because they're effectively one and the same in my mind. So it kind of covers both bases. I'm trying to make sure that each square represents something very unique unto itself, that we don't have inherent overlap between the squares. That's the one challenge of the ongoing bingo card, to form a more perfect bingo card as time goes on. Let's see. And Servant of Satania, going to be honest, for a potential repeated child. What? I didn't know if you're talking to me. Going to be honest, for a potential repeated child rapist with I don't know what you're talking about, Satania, and I'm hesitant I don't know. Maybe it's the pepper jack. Maybe I missed something. But anyway, guys, I am at the bottom of this hour, and I got to go because work is work, and I got to go do it. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me today for this bizarre odyssey of computerized HR practices and no evidence and Amazon evil doing without filing a lawsuit. Thank you so much for your attendance, participation, and thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to hear more from me or Satsu 2 Cents or Ranting Monkey, you can find the three of us tonight on Ranting Monkey's channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for The Lords of the Night, where we'll go over the news of the day, news stories you submit, stuff we've been up to on the intertubes, and then your questions and comments thereafter. Everyone, I hope you have a good rest of your Wednesday. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.